All right, welcome everyone. My name is Zachary Idala. I am the president-elect of NRHC. I will be leading the poster prep session today. Thanks for joining me this afternoon. We're a pretty small group, which is nice, so that can answer any questions that you have. Feel free to put questions in the chat, put questions in speak them, I guess, if you have questions as I go through. Sort of the purpose of today is to orient you a little bit into what poster presentations are, what their function is, and how to think about putting them together. And I'll have some examples for you as well. Just as a bit of context, how many of you have for how many of you is NRHC this is going to be your first NRHC conference? If you could put that in the chat, just so I have an idea of how many of you have done this before. First time. Great. Okay. So I'll give you some all right, good. So it looks like almost all of you are first timers. This is great. So I'll tell you a little bit about NRHC generally, and then I'll sort of go through what I envision posters to be like, give you a sense of who the audience is going to be and how the poster sessions will run. And then we'll give some examples of posters for you to draw from, which we can also post. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen so you can see the NRHC website. So NRHC is going to be from April 4th to April 7th. What I'm showing you here is the presentation strands, and we'll scroll down to the posters in just a few seconds. But ultimately, there are going to be 3 poster sessions. The first one is going to be on Friday, April 5th from 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. The second one is going to be on Saturday, April 6th from 7:45 a.m. to 9 a.m. And the third one is going to be on Sunday, April 7th from 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. And you, as poster presenters, will be assigned to present your poster in one of those 3 sessions. We haven't yet I don't think we've yet put the full program out, or a complete program, but I believe there is a draft, so you can look that up. But basically, the way a poster presentation block in a schedule for a conference runs is we put everyone in a very large room, and you set up your poster in there, and you stand next to your poster for the duration of the time period. And your job is to engage audience members as they sort of mill throughout the large room, going from poster to poster. And so this is not a very formal kind of presentation, and you're not expected to have a very long scripted or rehearsed version of your presentation or project for this kind of research presentation format. Typically, you would have maybe 1 to 2 minutes of prepared remarks where you sort of go through the main points that you want to get across to an audience member. And then the rest of that interaction that you have with an audience member would be for Q&A. They may ask for more information about your methodology, or more information about your background or your conclusions, or engage you about some of the graphics you include on the poster. And so your job really is to engage in a back and forth conversation with your audience members, who are going to change as they move from poster to poster in the very large room. And so I really like poster sessions because they allow for a more conversational tone. I've met future collaborators. You may run into people who are working on similar projects, who may be looking for new members of their laboratory or research group that may appeal to you in terms of, looking into graduate programs or something like that. So not only are these good for finding potential collaborators. They can be really nice networking opportunities as well. And so that's basically how poster sessions run. The way they'll run at NRHC is you will be given a trifold poster board on which to pin the large poster that you will have printed out and brought with you. The trifolds are going to be 48 by 36 inches, so please make sure that your poster, once you print it out, doesn't measure larger than that. Typically, these would be printed out at a place where they have the capability of printing these large things. Staples comes to mind. Many of your campuses may also have like a creative arts department or something like that where they can print out on campus, but that's sort of up to you to figure out how it's going to work. Your job then is to set up your poster before the session starts and then stand by your poster throughout the session. So what I'll do now is I can share with you some examples of different posters that I think you might be able to draw some inspiration from. So I'll pull one up. Let me find it. Okay. Here is an example of a poster. Typically, you're going to want to do it in either PowerPoint or Google Slides and make it as visually appealing as possible. And so typically what you'll have is your title, you'll have your affiliation, your name, author, school, all that under there, and then the different sections of your project. This is a biology-based one, so yours may differ if you're working in the humanities or a different discipline, but generally you'll want to sort of structure the poster in such a way that you can run your audience through the beginning, middle, and end of the story that you want to tell academically, and then supplement to the extent as possible with visually appealing graphics. Remember, this isn't a PowerPoint presentation, so you'll only have this to draw from. So you want to try to, as much as possible, minimize the text if you can, and rely on graphics, especially graphics that give context for where or what your study was about, results and conclusions and things like that. Those are all really good things to try to visualize if possible. Now, I understand there's going to be, constraints to that depending on the nature of your project and the depth of your project. So don't, take that too much to heart if, it doesn't apply to your specific project or your specific discipline, but that's generally the way you want to set it up. I've often seen posters in columns like this, where you have sort of an abstract first, which is, a general overview of the study, followed by a short introduction. Remember, if you wrote this as a full-length paper, you're not going to be able to put that full text into the poster. So you're going to have to find a way to sort of condense that information and convey only the main points in writing, and even better if you can convey the main points using graphics, especially if you're dealing with quantitative data analysis or something like that, that you can show in a graph rather than have in paragraph form or written form. So you generally wouldn't want to necessarily have too much redundancy, right? If you can show it in a graphic, there's no need to replicate it in writing because you should be able to talk through these main points with your audience. Let me see if I can share another one with you. Did the screen change? Can someone just say yes or no? No. How about now? Better? Okay, thank you. So here's another example, right? You want to try to make use of what I like to call negative space. So to the extent that you can, minimize, you don't feel the need to fill every empty space up with something, right? So see how there's a margin here, there's space in between the texts. Don't feel the need to cram as much as possible and fill up every usable inch of space. It can become very visually cluttered really quickly. And this is something you learn after doing posters many times. But as a general rule of thumb, you want to try to have as much negative space as possible, so that you don't overcrowd people's attention and what they're focusing on. I would also suggest that for a poster like this, if I were to give constructive feedback, I would try to make some of these text boxes smaller and make these images larger. So for example, do you see how you have a whole section here for conservation genetics? Maybe we can pull some of that information out or make it smaller or make something else smaller so that we can make these a little bit larger. Remember, these are going to be large pieces of paper that you're going to want to be able to refer to, and you don't want to have people squinting too much at fine details. So if you can make your visual aids like your graphs or your figures or photos or maps or whatever it is you're including, you can make those as large as possible so that you can walk, your voice is the thing that should really walk your audience member through the project rather than expect them to read everything. Really, the text is there for people that want to read to get, a little bit more specific information, but sort of your job is to help facilitate that using, a conversation in the form of a conversation. So here's another example. And then I have, one more, I think is my favorite one, if I can find it. Yeah, I like this one a lot. This one's nice. Let me see. So here you have another one here. A lot of negative space, large graphics, text is to a minimum. If you have affiliations, put your school's logo somewhere in the upper left or upper right margin. It's a really nice thing to have. And again, any kind of photo, any kind of thing to sort of visually show what it is you did is great. One thing that I want to just that I forgot to mention when you're making these, what you have to do is, because you need it to be a very large photo, you need to make the size of the slide larger than the typical or default size that a typical slide would be. And so you do that by going to, I believe it's design, and you go over here on the upper right to slide size. And if you click on that, you're going to go to custom slide size. And when you do that, see how it says, see it's set for custom, you're going to set yours to custom. And then you can type in the exact height and width requirements for the NRHC poster trifolds, which in this case are 36 by 48, I think it was. Let me double check those numbers so that I'm not giving 48 by 36. So you type those in and that'll automatically make the slide itself the exact size that you're going to print out so that you can start making these. Okay. Then you use things like text boxes and add borders and use different font and bolding to indicate the different sections of your project to the extent that you can sort of visually walk people through it. I like this one because the sections are discrete, they're bordered out. And so you don't have to sort of fish around for where one thing starts and where something else ends. It's really nicely laid out. There's good use of negative space here, a lot of nice photos, maps, walking through methodology, etc. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing there and I'm going to go through I see a question and I will be, the poster session is not the same as a roundtable discussion. Roundtable discussions are similar insofar as they have a conversational type approach to the presentation, but roundtable discussions, you won't have a poster as a visual aid. You may bring some other kinds of materials that you'd like to share, and you and your audience will sit around literally a round table where you give them a little presentation and then engage them in discussion about whatever topic it is that you are presenting about. Does anybody have any other questions? Yes, there are going to be prep sessions for roundtables, and I can give you that date. Let me look those up. Give me 1 second. I believe it came around in one of the emails that was sent out either earlier today. Yeah, so there was yesterday an email came out. The subject is NRHC conference news, and it should have been sent to everyone who is who has had a presentation accepted along with all of your honors directors. So if you didn't get it, please let us know. But if you scroll down in there, you'll see when the roundtable is, and I'm scrolling down to find it right now. That's going to be Monday, February 12th at 7 p.m. And there are links to the Zooms all in there as well. Okay. Any other questions about posters, poster presentations? I'm also open to answering any general questions you have about NRHC. Okay, Stacy, thank you. Reach out to your honors director, and if they didn't get it either, please send an email to Northeast. Sorry, I'm typing it in the chat. Regional Honors Council at gmail. Whoops. .com. And let us know, and we'll be happy to assist you with that. Okay. A conflict with your assigned poster presentation. We generally aren't able to accommodate too much in the way of schedule changes because of the just large volume of people that we are trying to schedule. But again, if you have a pressing concern, please email northeastregionalhonorscouncil.com or at gmail.com. And if we can, we will, but I can't guarantee that that's going to be a possibility. Okay. Any other questions about the conference or about posters or how to put posters together, or how any of that's going to run? Happy to answer them for you. Okay, well, thank you for your time. I hope this was helpful. And yeah, we can talk about Roundtable. What do you want to know?
I'm sorry, I'm a slow typer. I'm just gonna say it.
That's fine. No, that's better for sure. Yeah.
Okay, so I was just wondering, I'm right now doing the outline. Is there any specific type of outline that will make this a little bit easier?
Um,
Like to like organize?
Really, it's, most any presentation that you're giving, whether it be a traditional, academic talk, panel, what we call panel presentations at an RHC, or a poster or a roundtable, is you generally want to have an idea of what the beginning, middle, and end of the story of your project is going to be. Roundtables are a little more open because they are really intended to be discussions. Like, here's my project, here's my topic, here are some ideas I have, or different ways in which I have engaged that topic, or how can I engage, how can I create a discussion around that by asking pointed questions of my audience, or asking for feedback, or asking for some collaborative way of addressing it that I haven't necessarily thought of. It's really up to you to find what that is going to look like and what you want to get out of it as the presenter. We may have, and I'm not sure I have it right off. I don't have a copy of them here, but we used to have, I believe they were like proposal, like tip sheets to help with the crafting. I'll see if I can get a hold of those, and we'll have those posted to the website, and that might be a
That
little.
would be fantastic.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I know roundtables are a little different because, they really are intended to be discussion based. And so sometimes that could be because the project isn't completely finished and you're looking for feedback. It could be because you have um, a broad topic that you addressed in a pretty narrow way, but are looking for ways to, engage people in discussion about how to broaden it. It really just depends on what you're looking to do for your project and what phase of completion that project is in. So they tend to be a little less constrained in terms of their format. You know what I mean?
Yes, I understand.
And so that's about as concrete of an answer I can give you. Sorry.
Oh no, it's
But
okay. Another
they're
question.
relatively I don't want to say low stakes because that's not really what I mean, but their intent is to be casual discussion based rather than a formal presentation where you're conveying information to an audience like you would in a traditional talk.
Okay, okay. So I originally did not know that it was that um casual. I thought it was going to be more information based.
It can be that too. So
Okay,
it can range. So that's sort of like that's one end of it. And then yes, it certainly can be. And I've been in plenty of roundtables where it's here's what I did, here's a bunch of information. I want to share that information with you. I have a bunch of handouts. Let me walk you through the project, and this is what I learned from it. Maybe let's talk about how you might be able to apply some of this in your specific project or specific campus or whatever it is. So yeah, it certainly can be that, and there's nothing wrong with you taking that approach either. So don't think that that's bad at all.
okay. I do like the poster idea, and I don't think that it's possible, but I feel like I'm gonna ask anyway. Is it possible to switch over to different formats? If not, then I'll just stick to my round
Um,
table because that's okay.
maybe. We
Okay,
try not to make too many changes to the program for the same reason that I think it was Angel that asked before.
right.
Once things get sort of as we get closer to the conference, we have to have a pretty good sense of who's presenting when and where and in what capacity. You can always send an email to the Northeast, and if we can, we'll take a look at where you're scheduled, and if it's possible to do that, we will. But I wouldn't be too concerned if you end up not being able to change. Roundtables are really nice ways of getting your project across, and you can always have a mini version of a poster as one of your handouts that you give to people, and you end up basically doing that. So I wouldn't be too concerned, but if we can switch it, we'll take a look.
Right. I'm definitely going to be using some of the information that you used about the use the negative space, don't use
Mhm.
all of the, because I'm going to be doing a brochure.
Yeah, yeah. So certainly, yeah, that's those kinds of brochures are very common at roundtables, that kind of stuff. Yeah, absolutely. It's an opportunity for you to share um, whatever it is that you've been working on in a less traditional academic style, and brochures are very common. I've been to a lot of roundtables and I've walked away with lots of brochures, and they've been very helpful. And you're right,
Yeah.
the same kind of, design aesthetic would apply in that, and like to anything, whether it's an academic panel talk or a poster or whatever, you know, we often, once you have the content, you want to think about how you're presenting it visually, in whatever medium, and that does play a large role in how that information is digested by your audience. And so certainly, um, definitely something to consider. In general, regardless of
Yes.
the tools, you want to keep block text to a minimum, right? You don't want, if it's a brochure, you don't want to
Okay.
like a trifold of like text, 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 right? It sort of defeats the purpose of what a brochure is intended, to do. And so the same kind of thing, like visual aids, figures, photos, images, all that kind of stuff, with captions, of course, to give context, but
Right.
generally it's the visual aids that tell the story.
Okay. Okay. And I would really like the format paper that you suggested earlier. So
Sure,
that would
sure.
be really, really helpful. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, if we can we'll try to get we'll get these some of the example posters posted if we can get permission from the author, which I think we should, so it shouldn't be too bad.
And the format paper that you were talking about earlier as well, right?
Oh, the poster prep tip sheets. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think we have those. I just we have to find them, and we'll get those posted for sure.
Okay, awesome.
Okay. Does
Thank
anybody
you so
else?
much.
Welcome. Does anybody else have any questions? All right. Well, I hope this was helpful. Um, and I look forward to seeing you all in just a few short weeks. In 8 weeks, we'll be there. So see you in a couple of months. I really hope you all have wonderful, wonderful rest of your afternoons and look forward to seeing you all soon. Okay. Thank you so much. Bye bye.